This is an excerpt from a book by Soren Kierkegaard called Johannes Climacus, where he writes in a narrative style um, as Johannes Climacus what it was like to confront the modern system of philosophy as someone who was still religious and had this calling to God, which for Kierkegaard is more of an unknown or a paradox, which man cannot know as he knows the other facts which philosophy has shown him. So this is called What Is It to Doubt? What must the nature of existence be in order for doubt to be possible? As Johannes began his deliberation on this question, he of course perceived that if he demanded an empirical answer to it, life would offer a multifariousness that would only hide a perplexing diffusion over the whole range of extremes. In other words, not only could that which evokes doubt in the single individual be extremely different, but it could also be the opposite. For if someone were to discourse on doubt in order to arouse doubt in another, he could precisely thereby evoke faith, just as faith, conversely, could evoke doubt. Because of this paradoxical dialectic, which, as he had realized earlier, had no analogy in any sphere of knowledge, since all knowledge stands in a direct and immanent relation to its object and the knower, not in an inverse and transcendent relation to a third, he easily perceived that at this point any empirical observation would lead to nothing. He had to take another route if he sought to find an answer to that question. He had to search out doubt's ideal possibility in consciousness. This, of course, had to remain the same, however different the occasioning phenomenon was, since, without itself being explained by the phenomenon, it explained the effect of the phenomenon. Then, whatever produced doubt in the individual could be as different as it pleased. If this possibility were not in the individual, nothing would be able to evoke it. Moreover, since the difference of the occasioning phenomenon could be one of contrariety, the possibility would have to be total, essential for human consciousness. He then sought to orient himself in consciousness as it is in itself, as that which explains every specific consciousness, yet without being itself a specific consciousness. He asked what the nature of consciousness would be when it had doubt outside itself. There is consciousness in the child, but this has doubt outside itself. How then is the child's consciousness qualified? It actually is not qualified at all, which also can be expressed by saying that it is immediate. Immediacy is precisely indeterminateness. In immediacy there is no relation, for as soon as there is a relation, immediacy is cancelled. Immediately, therefore, everything is true, but this truth is untruth the very next moment, for in immediacy everything is untrue. If consciousness can remain in immediacy, then the question of truth is cancelled. How does the question of truth arise? By way of untruth, because the moment I ask about truth, I have already asked about untruth. In the question of truth, consciousness is brought into relation with something else, and what makes this relation possible is untruth. Which is first, immediacy or mediacy? That is a captious question. It reminded him of the response Thales is supposed to have given someone who asked whether night or day came into existence first. Night, he said, is older by one day. Cannot the consciousness, then, remain in immediacy? This is a foolish question, because if it could, there would be no consciousness at all. But how, then, is immediacy cancelled? By mediacy, which cancels immediacy by presupposing it. What, then, is immediacy? Immediacy is reality itself. What is mediacy? It is the word. How does the one cancel the other? By giving expression to it, for that which is given expression is always presupposed. Immediacy is reality. Language is ideality. Consciousness is contradiction. The moment I make a statement about reality, contradiction is present, for what I say is ideality. The possibility of doubt, then, lies in consciousness, whose nature is a contradiction that is produced by a duplexity and that itself produces a duplexity. A duplexity of this sort inevitably has two manifestations. The duplexity is reality and ideality. Consciousness is the relation. I can either bring reality into relation with ideality, or bring ideality into relation with reality. In reality by itself, there is no possibility of doubt. When I express it in language, contradiction is present, since I do not express it but produce something else. Insofar as what was said is supposed to be an expression of reality, I have brought this into relation with ideality. Insofar as what was said is something produced by me, I have brought ideality into relation with reality. So long as this exchange takes place without mutual contact, consciousness exists only according to its possibility. In ideality, everything is just as perfectly true as in reality. Therefore, just as I can say that immediately everything is true, so I can also say that immediately everything is actual. For not until the moment that ideality is brought into relation with reality does possibility appear. In immediacy, the most false and the most true are equally true. In immediacy, the most possible and the most impossible are equally actual. So long as this exchange takes place without collision, consciousness does not actually exist, and this colossal fallacy causes no annulments. Reality is not consciousness, ideality no more so, yet consciousness does not exist without both, and this contradiction is the coming into existence of consciousness and its nature. Before proceeding any further, he considered whether or not what he at this point called consciousness was what usually was called reflection. He formulated that the relevant definition was as follows. Reflection is the possibility of the relation. Consciousness is the relation, the first form of which is contradiction. As a result, he also noted, reflection's categories are always dichotomous. For example, ideality and reality, soul and body, to know the true, to will the good, to love the beautiful, God and the world, etc., are categories of reflection. In reflection, they touch each other in such a way that a relation becomes possible.